EP too.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
This is like the Muppets where like
they're behind the scenes.
Right. But everyone can hear us.
I don't think people even need this anymore where you kind of wait. Here we go.
Well, it's just fun. It's like, the anticipation. You can cut it with
and hey, it's us.
Hey!
So we're back live again. We're cutting these up just because it's easier and it's better for each artist to have their own show. We just finished up with Hure, who was amazing, awesome.
Incredible.
I was halfway through that and I'm like, I don't know why she's talking to us. Like it's
a big deal.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
And we're continuing that with another artist who we're excited to talk about because he hails from Philadelphia. He's played at Music Fest. Ryan Tennis's music is all about dismantling boundaries and bringing people together. Is genre-defiant, which is a theme of tonight, I think.
Apparently, yes.
He is genre-defiant by nature and with diversity at his core. His rousing songs, and you're going to see just how rousing. It's like he is physically active in this music.
Oh, absolutely.
Are infused with rhythm from many of the countries he's visited during his extensive tours. While his performances are dynamic and danceable, Tennis's voice and songs have a disarming sweetness that lowers your defenses and lets you breathe easy. We're going to play a little bit of his song Alligator here before we bring him in.
Brand new song, released it last week, I believe. It's a brand new video, brand new single for him. It's an amazing song and a really, really well done video too.
Oh, that's the wrong one. I'll get this. Don't worry. We'll play a little bit.
You betcha. I got off my ass, took a walk down the railroad tracks. One tie per step's too small, two ties my stride's too long. So it's a balancing act. I could walk down the rail, but not too fast. If I slip, just flip my hips and skip a rail to the other one. And leave a list in the door for the grocery. You don't wanna miss any groceries. Put the bread in the box in the pantry. Yeah, you make sure your stock's up the pantry. And wash the dishes in the sink before they stacking up. Because the moment that you blink, they all be acting up. I guess
okay, we're gonna bring in Ryan Tennis.
Exactly.
I didn't know you were a Sixers fan.
Oh yeah, man.
I didn't know you were a Sixers fan. I saw you write to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm all excited. Not that I wasn't before. But.
No, I mean that's my favorite podcast ever. And I got they gave me a shout on the one right before. They gave me a shout for the new video.
What do you think about all this Ben Simmons stuff? Yeah,
that says it all right there.
Man, it's like
it's a bummer.
It's a bummer. It's like I held out. I never I never really liked him, but
I wanted to, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I was a fan. And then he's just like, I don't care. And
Hollywood Ben Simmons, afraid to look bad, afraid to be humble, never, just afraid.
It's a lesson to kids. You got to own your faults, own your mistakes, own up to them, or else you could be like Ben Simmons.
Bro, it's just
a sad millionaire.
It's just like a kid who, sad millionaire. He seems like a sad dude. I'm sorry for that guy.
And what a testament to Philly that here we are to celebrate your music and your story, and you instantly just jump right in on Ben Simmons. That is classic Philly right there.
No, man, I could just go on and on. I could spend this whole podcast talking about
it. We'll do episode 2 then. We'll do that about that. But here we are tonight to talk about you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Move on to the music, and it's totally fine. No, I got excited. That was great. Thank you so much for coming on, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my
absolutely.
Thanks,
and what a great video. I remember the way that I kind of go through Music Fest and prepare for it is to listen to music. And for whatever reason, I hadn't ever really connected with your music before, but I put on this 28-hour Spotify playlist of all the people who are playing the free stages, and I just let it go for day after day after day. And the songs that jump out at me are the ones who I want to go see. And you are so excited to see you play because I love the music. And a friend of mine who also does that same thing was like, okay, great music, and then now he's funny too, and he looks like Thor. Great, like I'm not taking my wife to this one. So, but anyway, awesome to have you on. Can't wait to hear more about the history of your career and more about the songs that you write, because you're a great storyteller too, on top of great music.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
So you're a Philly guy. I'm interested about this too. You played some football in North Carolina. So you said you were a late bloomer when it came to music. At least that's what I read. Can you kind of describe that? What was your musical path?
Well, I grew up in the town of Bernathen, which is a small town outside of Philadelphia, where almost everybody is part of this small church, which has its pluses and minuses.
Really cool, like castle that's there.
Yeah, a castle.
Great for pictures.
Three castles and a cathedral. But one of the coolest parts about growing up, I mean, in this very idyllic small town, is that everybody can sing. You're singing in church every morning. You have music class. I was going to summer camps where music was a huge part of it. And so I grew up singing. So everybody knows how to harmonize. Everybody can sing in tune. And so I grew up with music around, and that was really cool. And so it was just a part of what I was doing, but it was secondary to sports. Always. It was, football was first, then wrestling. I mean, wrestling's a torturous, horrible sport, but I did that and lacrosse, but really it was football all the time. And
played for Davidson, right?
For Davidson College, which is, small time, good, high quality.
But still, 1AA. It's
a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was nice. I had a fun career. We always had good teams. But I always found, so I loved the sport of football. In high school, I had this great team of really good-hearted guys who were some of my best friends. In college, there were some good dudes on the team. I made some friends, but I never really loved the culture of football. I just loved the game. I wasn't that in. I think it's just I always was more of an artist at heart and a musician at heart. And so when I finished with my senior year, I was not even close to sniffing the pros, and I was just like, oh, I was like, okay, so what now? And I started, I started listening to music and having these really intense experiences listening to music for the first time, where it was like it felt like whole worlds were opening up.
Sure.
And I was really into Simon and Garfunkel, and I was getting real into Dave Matthews. I was like a Dave Matthews bro, like a heavy Dave Matthews bro.
Definitely.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. I mean, Dave. It's so one of the nice things about Dave Matthews falling out of the limelight a little bit is that the Dave Matthews hate has also seemed to
certainly.
I mean, I dabble a little bit. His stuff is kind of complicated, a bunch of his songs. So that was even, I remember people are learning how to play guitar. If you can learn a couple Dave Matthews songs, you're on your way.
Well, it's a good start because he's such a good
guitar
player. And that, I mean, I learned to play guitar playing Dave Matthews songs, and that's where a lot of my style comes from is from that. So I was, at the end of college and after college, I was really getting into music and sort of discovering myself as an artist and having these intense experiences, playing music, listening to music. Started writing my first songs. A couple years after college, I moved out to San Diego, and that's when I first started playing open mics. And I formed a little band that was mediocre. And
it's a good name.
Yeah. We were called One Way Ticket. I don't know where that was, but it was a ticket to somewhere. Anyway, I'm so glad. It was so nice to get to do those first couple years in San Diego and not in Philadelphia, where I've made my home. So I got to do some growing up there. And
so like people won't be like, hey, I saw you 8 years ago and it was not
good. I was pretty convinced. I was pretty convinced at that time that I was pretty good or pretty great. I would have these experiences where I'd write a song and I'd be like, this is incredible. This is something really special. And honestly, a lot of those songs were really good. I think they were genuinely good songs. I was not very good. I was singing flat, I was not a very precise guitar player. I'm still not such a precise guitar player, but I was pretty green, and I was a lot more green than I knew. And so, yeah, but I mean, I had these moments. I remember, I remember this one time I had been writing some songs and I was hanging out with my girlfriend at the time, and we we made pot brownies for the first time, and I'd never eaten edibles before, and everybody, I feel like this is a universal experience with anybody who's ever eaten edibles, is you eat too much.
Too much, yes.
So like we were waiting for the train to go to this show, and we'd eaten some in the house, and we're sitting there waiting for the train, and all of a sudden I am in another world. And I went out. I'm just going right in on this story. I went out, and so I was like, okay, waiting for the train. I had to pee. I like went to some bush behind the train station. I'm peeing in the bush. I'm starting to lose my mind, just going into another world. And all of a sudden, like a bolt of lightning, I just had this like, you can do this. This is what you have to do. You are a songwriter. You are a musician. And it was absolutely as clear as day. And it hit like that. And that's happened to me.
While you're peeing behind a bush.
Peeing behind a bush on my first time eating edibles.
It's kind of like, when you have your journey on peyote to find your spirit animal.
Mm-hmm.
Very like similar.
Yeah. Or like a sweat lodge or something. You were just
no, it was like that in
the SEPTA station.
It was like that, and it hit really strong, and I've had that happen a few times before. Sure. And when it happens, it's like, oh, I really need to do this.
It's definitely the universe, like just tapping you on the shoulder, going, "Hey, either support of the path you're currently thinking about, or the one you're wrong, and hey, I'm gonna kick you over this way." So I totally know what you mean.
Alter your edible recipe for next time
for a different style.
Yeah, you could.
And then with that, what about the side of
from that revelation? Because to keep that, people have had that when they're in that moment. Did you kind of come down from that and go, no, I'm still with this? And did you have like a moment after the fact too? Like,
it stuck with me. It wasn't out of the blue. I had kind of been thinking this anyway. Right. I'd been thinking this anyway. And honestly, at that time, if I knew how far away I was from being like a good professional musician who could really put on a good show, then I maybe would have quit. Like, I think most artists, go through these moments of like delusions of grandeur and then thinking they're shit. And can I, sorry, I don't know if I can curse on this.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Cool.
And I think those delusions of grandeur are super important for keeping you going, because you have to be a little bit deluded to try to be an artist as your life, And so, if I had really been able to assess where I was as a musician and as a performer, I think I would have been frustrated and quit. And so I needed to have that, but it stuck with me for sure. It was such a bolt. It was what I'd been thinking, just very clear, and I was like, this is what's happening. And actually, it relates. Phil, you were asking about my song "Walk On."
Yeah. Let's talk about that then.
Yeah, well, so I wrote that "Walk On" song not too long afterwards. I've been listening to a lot of Martin Sexton, and a lot of singer songwriters listen to Martin Sexton when they're getting started, and are like a lot of people, especially his Black Sheep album and his early albums, because a lot of them are just about striking out and going for it, striking out on your own and going for it. And so, I wrote "Walk On." You can kind of hear the influence from the song "Glory Bound" by Martin Sexton, if you know that. And it was just like, I just shortly after that got really clear. Hey, I'm working this office job. Time to go. Time to quit that. I really don't need to be in San Diego anymore. This is not the place for me to develop as a musician. And also time to leave the girl who I'm dating too. So it was all hit at the same time. And so shortly thereafter, I took all those steps.
Was there a mentor or a humbling moment that helped you, like you could reconcile the grandeur that you had, which is obviously not diluted because you're achieving it?
Behind the bush would be the humbling.
Well, no, I meant more about the performing. Like, was there somebody who came along and said, "You're not good enough, let me help you"? Or, was there anybody in there that kind of helped you take you to that next level?
Honestly, I feel like it's been a real gap in my career. I've had people plenty of people have taught me things, but I kind of always have wished I had more mentors. And I think it's something I've like sometimes tried to play that, I've offered that to other people, and I've had a
Sure.
couple people tell me that they see me as a mentor, which was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I never felt like I had that. I mean, I've had, well,
Well,
had
you've
some
had-
friends who are pretty. I've had some musician friends who are really influential, who I thought of as peers. But a lot of times, when I first came to Philly, there were definitely some artists who I really looked up to, but they were never that cool to me. So,
Well, probably like I would imagine there's some competition, somewhat.
competition, and I think it was competition, but also like I was kind of green still, and I think most people who get serious into music, they kind of have those like growing pains of being like annoying, not really knowing their role in a jam session, or like
Sure.
they have that stuff happen like when they're 13 or 15, and it's kind of cute and everybody's going through it. But like when you're in your late 20s and that stuff's happening, like I just, like the people, what I will say is the people who were really cool to me in that time when I was, I had talent and I had promise, but I was not like real refined in a lot of ways, and I was probably a little much to deal with. And the musicians who were cool to me in those moments, who were better than me and who were cool to me, I will have a place in my heart for those musicians for the rest of my life. And so I try to be as kind as I can to people in those situations. It doesn't mean you have to let the crummy musician or the green musician ruin the jam session, but if you can just be nice to people, and and especially because young artists want it so bad.
Yeah, and being nice is easy. It's just a choice.
You talk about, it kind of leads me to asking you about some of your South American or Colombian ties. I see a lot of that on your website. It talks about that. Where did that come from? Where is that connection from? And can you tell me more about the time that you've spent there and playing and touring?
Yeah, so that connection started because of my brother, Bronson Tennis, who actually plays at Music Fest almost every year. His band is called De Tierra Caliente.
Okay. Yeah, I
they're
didn't know that.
a Latin fusion band, and that's his. They're fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been living in Argentina kind of on a whim. Ended up playing with this Colombian band called El Caribe Funk, who they're really big. They were nominated for a Latin Grammy last year.
Wow.
And the only independent band nominated for a Latin Grammy. And and so I went down to visit him kind of on a whim, after like a shitty breakup. I went down and visited him in Colombia, and those guys and Caribe Funk invited me to open a show for them. It went really well, and they were about to go on tour. They said, "Hey, why don't you come along, tag along with us on our first tour?" And it was a very, very grassroots Rasta style tour, in that they had like 1 or 2 dates, but mostly just went to cities and found shows. But
that's so awesome.
Can you imagine showing up?
Hey, we're here. Are you booked? No, but we're playing.
Yeah, in Colombia it works a little better, and also the thing is their music was so fantastic and magnetic and joyful. Like everywhere they went, people just it felt like going.
You can't help yourself.
Those guys, that band, when they were 4 pieces, and it had the same energy as the Beatles, like where it was like these young guys who were just unbelievably charismatic, phenomenal songs, phenomenal musicianship, and everyone wanted to be a part of it wherever they went. And so I just fell in love with the country, started learning Spanish, really developed a deep friendship with all those guys. And so started going back, and then ended up bringing them with my brother. We worked together to bring them to the US 3 summers in a row and organize tours for them. And so now like these are my boys, and I see them all the time.
Did they just recently play the Veil with you, or was that this summer?
They did. And
I thought I saw that.
It was really cool because they were a 4-piece. My brother played with them for a while, then he came back to the US, and then they were a 4-piece, and this 4-piece was unbelievable. 2 of the guys left the band under, not so great circumstances. And the show at the Veil was the first time all 4 of them played together again in like 4 years, which was pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
God, I wish I had known that. I would have come down.
Man, it was a magical night, I tell you. Yeah.
Well, do you want to? We can even bring up the Veil now. If you bring back up the alligator video and jump more towards like maybe 3/4 of the way in, it's the giant explosion at the end there.
Like 2:30. That'll give you a little lead.
Oh, I love it. So yeah, he comes into the.
Easy less you wanna have a heart attack. I've been thinking all the ways I could be good to you.
This is the big build up too. It's the.
Shit you know you shouldn't do. I took the stairs when I should have took the elevator. Where you were left over salad eating alligator. I guess I'll take another look in the refrigerator. I'm just a man and you knew it. Ooh, save it, baby.
So that's your backyard?
Yeah.
I'm like streaming. That's your backyard?
Yeah, let it play without audio so that he can, talk about it.
Yeah. So we've been doing these concerts. This was in late June. So it was like when everybody who wanted to be vaccinated was vaccinated. And we
that
thought
that period of time.
Yeah, it was that little magical period of time. And so we had a concert and we were like, let's get this last shot. The filmmaker, Will Drinker, who's a fantastic filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
This part of it was his idea. And so, we had a very short time window because we were actually hosting a concert. We had my brother's band played before, and then afterwards we had Kingsley Ibanichi, an amazing R&B dance kind of act. And so we had this 40-minute window to get all these shots and organize all the people who were there, and we just banged it out. It really went well, and yeah, that's it.
In normal circumstances, do you have shows at your house like that? Is that like a thing?
Yeah, that's the idea. We do about one a month when it's warm out. And,
open to the public?
Open
So
to
I can come down? All right.
Yeah, come on down. Our next one is Friday. We actually are doing our first ever comedy night. So we have a band playing, Ritmo Collective, a really cool Philly like funky world music instrumental trio, and then four Philadelphia-based comedians who are fantastic are going to perform, and I usually do a couple songs to open things up.
That's a lot of fun. I mean, those are the kind of things that I've been jonesing to do for the last, and especially when you see it looks so much more special because you've been, at least me, I've taken it for granted for however long, and now that you can't experience it, you look at it and you're like, it's a glass of water, and you're thirsty. Man,
I know. I think everyone's been feeling like that, and that night was just a huge, this explosion. Yeah, people are like ecstatic. They're extra joyful.
Well, we could talk about that. I mean, I know that in you've had quotes that talk about how everyone's been struggling, and you're sensitive to that, and even as a musician, how has that affected you the last year and a half, whether songwriting or creatively? Clearly, you probably haven't been able to play maybe out as much as you wanted to. How's this time period been?
Well, it's so interesting because at first it was pretty cool because for the last 10 years, it's been, 150, 200 gigs a year. And I had never taken more than two weeks off without a show. So to go all of a sudden 2-3 months without playing was like, it was wild. At first I was floundering, but then it kind of felt good. And, I was in a different boat than a lot of musicians because I do a lot of working man gigs down the Jersey Shore, and that was pretty open. Like in the summer of 2020, like starting in July, there were a lot of gigs available. So I was actually gigging pretty good, and people were so generous with their tips and so appreciative. So I got to do a decent amount of gigs the summer before last, but creatively, I got to shed guitar and shed voice and do more writing. I wrote that song Alligator and a couple others during the pandemic after, it had been years. I had kind of gone a couple of years without writing anything serious. So it was really nice to have that time. Also, I was able to deconstruct my singing voice in a way that I don't think I ever would have been able to do. Like when you just have to sing night after night, you always have to bring it. And there was a way that I was guarding and protecting a certain part of my higher register. And it would always make me come in, like when I listened to my recordings of myself, like I sounded good, but I just had this tendency to come in a little bit flat because it took this time to just put hours in with nobody listening. I was also doing a lot of drives. My girl was up in Long Island. And so I was driving up there to pick her up and then driving home with her every weekend and then driving her back. So I was doing like, 9 or 10 hours of driving a week and would just spend those whole drives working on my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I could explore this little area that was sort of underdeveloped and sensitive and didn't sound that good and needed a lot of time without judgment to play around with this certain mechanical part of my voice that resonates up in my head that had never been resonating all the way. And now I have way better access to that. And my pitch is just a lot more pure than it used to be. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better.
And was it mostly confidence in it that was the important part, or was like, because the practice would give you the confidence that you could get there?
Yeah, confidence. What was really happening is that there was, without knowing it, there was some subconscious fear thing happening where when I got to a certain point, muscles, really small muscles inside my throat and mouth and head were it was a subconscious fear thing where they were clenching, and that wasn't letting it resonate all the way because it didn't feel safe. So confidence is sort of right, but really it was less fear, less subconscious fear. Yeah.
Is that something that you figured out on your own, or is it kind of, I don't know, like how do you figure that out? Because to me, like, I never would have. I mean, I'm not an artist like that, but how do you get to that point where you know that you're maybe not, you need to relax a little bit more? Is it just from continually practicing in that way?
Well, practicing, when you keep approaching it in an honest way, you will make discoveries. Okay. I took a few lessons. Usually, I'd take a voice lesson or two. I took 2 or 3 voice lessons with 2 different teachers, and then I was working on stuff there. Honestly, I had like a couple very intense, without going too deep, I had a couple very intense therapeutic experiences where I had these big releases of stored energy in my body. And all of a sudden after those experiences, I was like, whoa, I was singing and it was this soaring thing where it was resonating all the way through my body. And I was like, holy shit, this is what it feels like to sing without fear.
Yep.
And so,
you should send Ben Simmons to some of those. Shoot a free throw.
About that. I've absolutely thought about that. Same with Markel Fultz. No,
it's the same thing. It's a mental block.
Without going into too much detail, basically, I don't know if you guys have, I'm sure you have followed some of this stuff. I did MDMA therapy.
Sure.
Which is like
microdosing or whatever. I mean,
no, it's like a therapeutic session. It's a strong dose with a therapist. And it's like ecstasy, and if you read, it's about to become legal in some capacity because it's so effective for treating PTSD. Actually, everybody has little traumas, everybody has mini versions of that. And so I was just like, I've connected with somebody who did it, and I was like, I'm giving it a try, and it was extremely powerful. It was life-changing, and it really changed my singing voice because I can feel what it felt like at the end of that session. I started singing, and it was just like, my body's completely open, and I can sing almost any note, and it's pure, and it's on pitch, and it comes directly from my heart. And so
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and so I used that and sort of built off of that experience as I was doing these drives.
I bet you listening to me in the car compared to listening to Ryan would not be, because I'd probably sing as much, but just not as good. Nobody wants to hear that. What I'm trying to say is, if someone was in the car with you, it would probably be nice.
I'm also picturing like the New Jersey Turnpike or the LIE on Long Island, and somebody's just next to you going,
driving
what is he doing?
Yeah, and I was getting into it. Like that's the thing is, there's no isolation. Unless you live in a farmhouse, there's no isolation like the isolation of driving on a highway in a car.
Absolutely.
So, like when you're worried about your neighbors hearing, you just can't really let loose. And so, I mean, I guarantee if you were in that car, you'd hear some good stuff. You'd also hear a lot of bad stuff. And that ability that to sing the bad stuff without worrying about it was crucial to this development that happened.
Totally. I can totally see that.
Yeah.
That's a special story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, I was like, should I share it? But it's really like, I also share it because I just think anybody could benefit from that kind of stuff.
And it's even funny that you mentioned PTSD. The interview right before you, it's so funny, the overlaps, because she's actually from Ecuador.
Yeah.
And then she had a video that was specifically, basically the song in the video were around PTSD of a soldier who came home from war. So it's just kind of like these neat overlaps of these two interviews.
Well,
So far.
I like that we're getting less of the stigma too around things like that. We're using, substances that used to be more taboo that were really taboo for the wrong reason, and we're thought of in a different way. And you're seeing that with the legalization of marijuana across pretty much the United States. You see that now. There's benefits. There's therapeutic benefits.
There's therapeutic. Yeah, I mean, aside from like the fun of those things, if you think about it like medicine, obviously, like, if you take too much medicine or you take it all the time, and it's not good. But if you use it in the right way, I mean, and the science is overwhelming. It's like, there's no questioning the effectiveness of these substances in a therapeutic setting.
Right.
Sure.
Well, we did a podcast with some people in Pennsylvania who grow and sell, and for them, they're just really like, just because you can have fun on the substance doesn't mean that it's bad, and that's been some of that connotation.
So, right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's very interesting. So thank you.
Yeah. I guess bringing it slightly back to the music. Do you want to talk about Music Fest a little bit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure, man. So I've played it. This was, I think, my third time playing Music Fest, but I hadn't played it for several years.
Okay.
And so I mentioned those Colombians. The guy on the left and the guy on the right are members of the band. Well, the guy on the left is he works with them now, but he's mostly doing his own stuff. But the guy on the right it's Andres Mordecai as the percussionist and Jamil Chawi, and that's my cousin Joanna Austin singing with me. But those guys play in Caribe funk.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Also, I play a lot. I've toured a lot with both of them. Jamil is a guitar player, but he's a very good bass player too. So he's played a lot on tours on bass. And Andres, I've done some touring in Colombia with him. And the three of us are going to be on tour. Are going to do a tour in Europe in April. So these are some of the guys who are like my peers, who I would say, okay, these are peers who I've shared a lot with, who I learned from, who I grow from. And Andres on percussion is just a monster.
I can't believe I had to walk up to the stage to see he's playing with his bare hands.
Watch him go. Look at him go.
Actually, if we could let the audio up a little bit, you can just hear such an amazing percussion.
One night, I remember.
Yeah, he's playing. He has the shakers in his socks that are doing the back and forth.
Oh, he has shakers. Do you hear that? He has shakers in his socks.
Yeah. And when he plays with Caribe funk, he's has that going on. He's playing bongo, cajon, shakers, cymbals, and he also, while playing back and forth with his socks, he'll be hitting pedals that hit a cowbell or a wood block.
And he's singing like on top of all that. It's unbelievable.
He's one of the finest musicians in the world. And I don't say that lightly or like it's not hyperbole. He literally.
But you guys are having so much fun out there. Like, have you seen that? That's Phil. That's your video.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thanks for taking it.
But no, it's just like your energy. I read in one of the things I was reading, like you were an athlete and you still kind of have that physicality when you're playing, for sure. When you see, and I noticed that on stage, like you just really, it's physical. You're into it. You're going to be sweating by the end of that performance, whether you like it or not.
I'm always sweating.
And that guy playing with his bare hands, I welcome anybody to try and slap a cymbal one day the way he is. Like you will go to the hospital. Like it's unbelievable. But obviously he's done it so much that he's built it up, and man, is it fun to watch him play. And he's physical and you're physical, and yeah.
Do you want to bring the other one up with Bathiki?
Bathiki, yeah.
Or do you want to talk
actually,
about
before
that
you do that, yeah. So, just a little. Anything else on Music Fest? You said you took a little bit of a break there. And had a few years off.
It was just really nice to come back. I sort of reconnected with the folks over there because of my work with Bagidi and the Graceland band. And so they've started inviting me to do stuff. I'm actually playing at the cafe in like the common space on October 30th.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
excellent.
doing a solo set over there, and yeah, it was so nice to be back. It was cool because that side stage is in a high traffic area, so it's not
Mhm.
like there's a million people there to see you necessarily. But if you're playing and it sounds good, people will stop through, and that's what
Absolutely.
happened. We had a great group stop through, and it's cool playing Music Fest because a way that I think it's different than a lot of music festivals I've been at is it's really a wide swath of the public. You know, it's a lot. It's very real age diversity, real background diversity and background, cultural, ethnic diversity, everything. And so you get people from a lot of different walks of life there.
Mhm,
The fact
mhm.
that it's not gated either, it's an ungated, festival where people are just like, I hear some music, I'm gonna go find out
Right,
what that
right,
is.
right,
It's
right.
great, too.
And you also had a Stephen Page was playing that night on the Levitt stage. Who he was the former one of the lead singers for Bare Naked Ladies. So he was a little bit of a draw, but he was very mellow. And so like he was a lovely performer. But it was opening night, or wasn't it? Yeah, it was opening night of the
Saturday night,
festival.
yeah.
Saturday, yeah, opening
Yeah.
weekend. And so you go and you're like, okay, I'm going to go see this thing. And he's just him and a guitar. And it was like, okay, that's fine and all. And then he finishes his set. You start up yours and it's this explosion of energy. And you're right. Like all of a sudden, tons of people are like, I'm heading over there, whatever that is. I'm going to be a part of that. And you did. You had a pretty good crowd, great energy. And man, you guys brought it and fed off of it. It was really, really great.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite sets of the summer for sure.
I just was sad you only had 30 minutes or an hour. It was short.
Yeah, we had 30 minutes. We had two 30-minute sets, but the first
Yeah.
one, there was one. The guy who was supposed to be doing sound for us had a heat stroke or something, so we ended up being a little behind. So we just got a short set on the first one, but we gave it our all on that. that
On the second one, yeah. So hopefully next year, if you come back to Music Fest, we give you a better time slot and more
Let's
time.
go, man. Yeah,
Let's do
come
it.
on.
Let's do it.
I want to be in Lehigh. I want to be doing this Arts Quest stuff as much as possible. I love what's going on there.
Yeah, no, thank you. It is great, and
we want to be there too. We're happy to come down and to do some live stuff as well as you're playing. So
yeah,
oh, it would be
definitely.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'd love to do one down at the Vale too if you guys are playing, or you would do.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Would be really cool to collaborate on that.
Yeah. And so that's I think there's a really good story around the Bakiti. I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong. Bakiti, is it?
Bagidi.
Bakiti Kamalo, who is the person who was on Paul Simon's Graceland. And there's a little bit of a video here from that performance.
here, let me play some with sound here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the drum solo, but it is fun to watch him dance. I think this really shows his spirit. I think this is great.
Yeah, Bagidi can't believe that he's in the 60s because he's so youthful and he plays with such a joyful, youthful energy. And he's a special musician, that guy. So
For people who are unfamiliar, he was the bassist on Graceland, Paul Simon's album.
Yep.
And he lives in the Lehigh Valley. Yeah.
For like 40 years, he's toured with toured with Paul Simon and Sting, with Stevie Wonder, everybody. He's been all over, and he's from South Africa. Really cool story. But
I'm sorry. I was able to interview him once at the Allentown Art Museum, and he told me a story. I'm going to get it wrong, I think, but Paul Simon was in South Africa and basically just kind of discovered him. Is that? Am I incorrect?
No, that's it. Yeah. The story he told me is he was playing bass in his uncle's band, I think, and Paul kind of went down because he had been listening to some South African music and didn't know what it was, and had this one tape someone had made him, and went down, tried to find these artists to collaborate with them. And I think he was like, hey, I like what this guy's doing on bass, because he had this fretless bass and he had his own sort of style. And so he was like, who's that bass player? And he was apparently working in an auto garage, and he was, I don't know, 16 or 17 or something. And they were like, hey, Paul Simon's calling for you. He's like, who's Paul Simon? And they're like, Sound of Silence, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no. But he did know. He knew the only song that they played in the township, he said, was Mother and Child Reunion, because it had a groove. It was reggae. And so that song, and he was like, they were like, you need to go. So he went, and that's all she wrote.
That's awesome. And now he's based here in the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, he lives in the Lehigh Valley, and I met him one time, and he was the nicest guy. I had to interview him, and I had like an issue with the camera. no problem. He was so patient and polite. Like he was.
Man, he's a good-hearted man, and he's an amazing musician, and has just a creative spirit that's full of life. So it's really cool to get to play with him.
Yeah, and again, if I read it right, there's an interesting story about how you became kind of like the full-time lead singer for his performances, correct? Like it was where you showed up and other people didn't, and you just kind of filled in for the whole show.
Yeah, it was. They were doing I think a 30th anniversary tribute to Graceland thing at the Philadelphia Folk Festival, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and they had a lot of different artists who they invited to sing lead on a song. Big Edie was playing with his band there, and so I think I was there to do I Know What I Know, but some of the other artists couldn't make it, and so I ended up I knew all the songs, so I just did the rest of it. Did another lead on another 3 songs, and so after the performance, it was really cool. I chatted with Big Edie, and the percussionist in my band was already friends with him, so I called him up and said, "Hey, we should do this again. Let's put on another show in the winter at the Ardmore Music Hall," and organized it. And really, a lot of the guys in that band are cats from my band. Like the drummer is the drummer in my band. The percussionist is the percussionist in my regular band. And a lot of these guys are just Philly cats who I play with. The keyboard player is Amos Lee's music director.
Wow.
And so it's just a lot of serious Philly cats. And
sure.
And we put it together. The show in Ardmore went super well. We did a couple more, and it just kept developing. And it was always such a big hit, and we had a good time. And so it started getting more serious. And now we're doing it more seriously.
It's a great show. You guys did it on one of the most beautiful days of the summer. George, if you want to pull up that picture, there was this amazing sunset towards the end. But basically, it was
I don't know what happened.
For people who haven't seen it yet. It's a lot of the Graceland music, but then there's some of your music that's mixed in there too. And it's just such a great show. Like I just think people should definitely check it out. It was part of the Levitt. Yeah, absolutely. It was that. When did you write From the Water? There it is.
There it is. Sorry.
That's you guys on stage with this. With this awesome. Yeah. I'll definitely send it to you. It was packed because the weather was perfect. So it was one of these days where it's like, oh, a free show with a world-renowned artist and an amazing singer. Like, let's go.
People know Big Edie around those parts too, so they know who he is.
We're spoiled now. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So From the Water fits that style so well. So when you guys played it that night and you had the singers there who could do that one part, I just think that was such such a neat way to listen to the song.
Hey, so before we get into all the stuff that you're planning on doing, and we can talk about some of the promotion on your website, would you be able to perform a song for us?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess we already saw some of Alligator, so I'll let you guys go. I'll let people listening go watch the Alligator video on YouTube. It's a blast. It's a joyful video. It's a really good time.
And we're gonna bop out of here. Nobody wants to see our faces while you're playing, so you can kind of lead it for this song, and we'll come back in when you're done.
All right, that sounds good. This song is called "Oh Alexandra." It's going to be the next single, the second single off of my forthcoming album, which will come out in February. And yeah, here it goes. Oh, Alexandra, born on the back of a sunflower, you're sweet as a summertime honeydew. Whoa, Alexandra, you can't wait to come over and show me a brand new butterfly tattoo. I'm only a friend now, it's a tale as old as time. Well, now I guess it's my time to retell it. Told you once how I feel a couple of years ago before you left town, but you left town anyway. Where's that feeling going? Shrinking or is it growing? There's an ember underneath still glowing. There's different ways of knowing which way the current's going, like when places once so stuck are flowing. Why keep me lonely? Why keep me waiting? While there's a love that once was mine for the taking. Can't make up my mind
like the weather it's changing? Do I feel fine even when my heart is breaking? Hey. Whoa, Alexandra, you laughed all over the world. You gave a whole lot of love in both hemispheres. It's driving me crazy. You were looking so good in the pictures you post that I had to unfollow you. That's true. Now you're back and everyone wants you. Just like me, well, they know how it feels when the sun shines on them. But I can wait on the moment. Like my mama used to say when I was just a little boy, she said, you can't always get what you want. But where's that feeling going? Shrinking or is it growing? There's an ember underneath still glowing. There's different ways of knowing which way the current's going, like when places once so stuck are flowing. Why keep me lonely? Why keep me waiting? While this love that once was mine for the taking. Can't make up my mind like the weather it's changing. Do I feel fine even when my heart is breaking? Hey! Yeah. Thought the poet in my soul had died. There was nothing breathing here. Everything I write already tried. So cloudy where it once was clear. Then suddenly rhythm from inside. We played it with the light unbroken. Was shaking loose of that joy I couldn't hide. Pulling vines from trees that once were talking. Why keep me lonely? Why keep me waiting? Why does the love that once was mine would have taken? Can't make up my mind like the weather it's changing. Do I feel fine even when my heart is breaking? Whoa, Alexander, breaking me down is breaking me down. And all the love I could end you with my heart in my hands and my feet on the ground. Whoa, Alexander, breaking me down, well, it's breaking me down. But if I really tell you how I'm gonna feel, no, I'm gonna stick around, yeah. Why keep me lonely? Why keep me waiting? While the love once was my for the taking. Can't make up my mind like whether it's changing. All you have to find all the time.
Hey, we're back. Thank
That
you.
was
That was
awesome.
great. It sounded great.
Sound was awesome.
Well, yeah, we've been trying to perfect that whole how to get the sound through the stream. That was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. I guess it's just not too loud.
No, you had no worries there. And then any story behind the song?
Oh man, just when you have a friend and
They eat too many edibles and they
you have a friend and you kind of wish that friend was more than just a friend, and they're kind of pretty cool with it just being friends.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the story. It's I wrote it a few years back.
Yeah. It's a great one.
fantastic.
We're going to create a Spotify playlist of all the artists we're interviewing tonight. So we'll throw songs like that and Alligator and even, Walk On. We'll put those out there so people can just kind of come to this and then launch that off to your, to be able to follow you on Spotify, check out your website, follow you on all the socials. Anything else you would want to promote in particular?
I think I want to my Alligator video. I want to tell you to sign up for my mailing list.
Right there you go.
There. Yep.
Look, I'm signing up right now.
It's that easy, ladies and gentlemen.
That easy. I hope it worked.
It did. It worked.
Okay. Yeah, and on Friday, we're having a Tracks of the Veil, our first comedy night. 4 fantastic comedians, an instrumental act from Philly. I'll play a few songs, and that's at my beautiful backyard stage in Mount Airy, Philadelphia. You can get there in about 50 minutes from Bethlehem, maybe an hour. And yeah, it's on Friday. Come on out. Come check out Tracks of the Veil if you're hankering for that kind of communal, really fun, warm music experience, and in this case, comedy experience.
Phil, I don't think I can make it this Friday, but I'm definitely in for one of the next performances because that looked like too much fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
like
obviously
trouble.
you said you're playing here on the 30th, right? You're playing here in Bethlehem.
Yeah, let me make sure that's confirmed. She just was like, "Hey, are we confirming this?" And so I don't know.
We're breaking news. I love when we break
confirmed.
news.
I'm not 100% sure. I think it's going to be confirmed. The 30th, October 30th.
And people should come in costume because it's Halloween.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll come in my Thor costume.
You could wear your alligator costume.
Oh, wouldn't that?
Boom! That's promotion heaven right there.
Hey guys, I'll go as Ben Simmons, so I just won't show up.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good joke. I'm good. I'm done.
That nailed it. Another good one.
If you don't show up, just send photos of yourself walking, getting out of a super fancy car.
I'll tell Phil, don't bother to come try to get me to come. I'm staying home, holding out. But in all seriousness, Ryan, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to learn more about you. It's a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we were able to have this talk. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, George, Phil. What a pleasure. Thanks for having me on this.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your music.
Yeah, everybody, RyanTennisMusic.com. Go there to sign up for their newsletter, his newsletter, but also to check out all the links. And Ryan, again, we wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much.
Yeah, see you guys around. See you at the Veil.
Hold tight. We're going to end.
Later.